The number one struggle to burn fat as a woman over 50. And what is it? Hormone imbalances. The hormones. Hormones drive our body, and we need to balance our hormones to be able to get that natural weight loss, to get our body to burn the fat. And so how do you do that, and what's happening? And that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm Lori Blue, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and thank you for joining me. Hormones rule our body. They are the signaling that is going on inside us that can cause us to have ravenous cravings, to actually want to eat more processed food, even though we know we shouldn't be eating it. We know what we need to do. We know we need to not eat the crap, not eat the processed food, not eat the so much sugar. But how do you control all of these problems? And then they get us to feeling sluggish and tired and brain fog. I remember trying to get off of wheat and thinking Ezekiel bread would be good for me because it was not so much processed, right? I remember immediately sitting down to breakfast one time, eating Ezekiel bread with some almond butter because I thought that was a good breakfast at the time. Immediate brain fog. And I didn't know till years later that I had a food sensitivity to wheat, and that wheat's been causing me to have depression all these years and anxiety, and that I needed to not eat any wheat. It was not doing my body any good. It doesn't do anybody's body any good, but that is probably why we have such a hormonal imbalances and why so many people are just really struggling with trying to get rid of the food cravings, because that's what causes food cravings, is when we eat too much of the processed food, have too much of a glucose load on the body from sugar and carbohydrates in those processed foods, we end up with hormonal imbalances. That was one of my biggest problems. I did not know what was going on in my mid-30s when I went to the doctor and I wanted to get pregnant again. All of a sudden I have PCOS, infertility. I didn't know what was going on. He's just laughing and said, "Oh, this fits my criteria. I think you have PCOS." Did he tell me anything about PCOS? I didn't even know then at the time to even study PCOS. I didn't know what that was. I just took the drugs they gave me and went on a diet not too long after that and just lost weight enough to get pregnant on my own. But what's happening is insulin resistance is the precursor to all of your hormonal dysfunction that's going on in the body, because when we eat too much sugar, get too much glucose load on the body, what happens is we end up with hormonal imbalances. And in your 20s and 30s, you're going to see it as, especially when we're on birth control as women, we're going to see that as more PCOS, where we become more estrogen dominant, where the sugar we're eating creates more of an estrogen dominance. We don't have enough progesterone in our body to balance the estrogen, because it just tanks down with high levels of cortisol and with high stress in the body. And when we're on birth control, we're more estrogen dominant. We just don't have enough progesterone. And so that can cause a really big problem with hormonal imbalance. I lost my 30s and my 40s, 225 pounds, could not get this under control, did not know what was going on, struggle, could not burn fat long term. I could starve my body. I did the low carb, I did the low fat. I tried to eat everything low fat, fat free, and lost some weight, gained it all back, never got rid of the asthma, the allergies, all of those food sensitivities were all still there. I couldn't ditch any of that, still had the brain fog, started to feel hopeless, felt exhausted, needed to sleep all the time, gaining weight. If I wasn't dieting, I was gaining weight. And so this is part of that struggle as women that we have to burn the fat, is because of hormone imbalances. These hormones will run the show, and they will take control of your body. And so it took me a really long time to learn how to flip off that sugar switch and to balance my hormones so that I could get my body back on track and to recreate the body that I wanted to have, to bring back me, so I could even find out who I was and how I wanted to live my life and make the choices that I needed to make. Sure, it can seem hard to give up carbohydrates because they're addictive and they make you feel good in the moment and they raise your dopamine levels. But food can do so much more. Food can be your poison, or food can be your medicine. And so we want to get the right food that's right for our body and program our body with food to do what we need it to do. And that's the whole idea, is to not struggle to burn fat as a woman, especially as a woman over 50, but to actually figure out what's going on with our body and to balance our hormone levels more naturally by being aware that we are insulin resistant if we have body fat. Too much body fat, we have more insulin resistance. And when you get more information, I mean, you could probably Google all this up, but I'm going to give you my lived experience. When you have insulin resistance, you are in a fat storage mode and you're not going to be able to burn very much fat. You can probably starve your body when you're on a low calorie diet, but eventually what you're doing is you're like taking this balloon, right? And you're pressing it, but all of a sudden pops back up, right? Because that's basically what you're doing. You're like starving your body. You're kind of pushing down your fat cells, but you're not really burning the body fat that you need to burn. And so even though you might lose a little and there's some women, God bless you women, who can actually just eat a little bit and starve for the whole life and never get the right nutrients. And, willpower, man, willpower. I remember hearing one lady said she was a journalist, and she was talking in the trial with they had Tim Noakes in South Africa was on trial for teaching people to eat a low carb diet or to recommending people to eat a low carb diet in Africa. So they took him to court because they didn't like that. And so there's a book out there and it was free on Audible. So you ought to listen to it. It's really cool. And one of the journalist that was in that story was talking about how she was always hungry, using the willpower to be slender because her business required her to be slender. So she would always just eat low calorie. And what happened then was when she was discovering more about the low carb diet and she did the switch to a low carb diet, she immediately had less hunger. And she's like, wow, it's so amazing not to have the hunger. And there's been so many stories that I've heard of women who've been stuck in the low calorie dogma and not getting the health and nutrition they needed and just having so much hunger. And even one lady who did the switch prior to, she dipped too low, she went too far into vegan, out of vegetarian into vegan, and just had a lot of eye dysfunction because our eyes, we need vitamin A. We need fat soluble vitamins. If we're not getting the fat from the food we're eating and we're not getting vitamin A, we could have more eye damage. And so that's what happened to her. There's lots of stories out there. And there's also somebody who followed my low carb method who, as a woman, when we're trying to balance our hormones, we're not thinking about balancing our hormones, but our hormones are becoming out of balance when we're not getting the nutrients we need. We're not getting the fat soluble vitamins. That's the other part of this, is the more insulin resistant we become, the more imbalanced we become. But the other side of that, and they're kind of combined, and I'm just going to dip into this just a little bit, is the disease switch is turned on. If you're not getting your fat soluble vitamins to balance your hormones because you're not eating good fat, what then happens is you can end up with more autoimmune conditions, which she did, and then she ended up with Parkinson's and she ended up with a stroke. And MRSA, all kinds of havoc went through. And in the end, she just wanted to lose weight and to be able to get her life back on track. So when she went on a low carb diet, she got healthy to lose the weight naturally, and to this day eats and lives a health adventure lifestyle for aging beautifully and adventurously the way I educate my clients. No symptoms of dysfunction in her body, completely reset her hormone balance and her metabolism by getting on the right diet for her body and using food as medicine to program her body. And this is flipping that sugar switch off. And so that's a simple term I like to use. This is practicing epigenetics, which can be a big word, but basically is how can you use food as information for your body, cut back on those foods that are causing havoc in your body and causing an insulin resistance, and eat food that doesn't raise your insulin levels. It can be as simple as that. And so just think about that. How can I eat less foods? Get my carbs to less than 20. I think needs to be under 25 per meal period, because if you go over 25 with each meal, you're raising your blood sugar too much. And so the whole idea is, if you have insulin resistance, you do need to eat a low carb diet to reset your metabolism, to reset your hormones so that you can be healthy again, to reset your metabolism and to reduce your risk for disease. And so you don't want to just look at this as I have weight to lose. You don't just have weight to lose. Weight gain is a symptom of a metabolic dysfunction. What's going on in your body and why is this happening? And so the precursor to all of this is the leptin sensitivity and the insulin resistance. And we just have too much of a glucose load on the body. Insulin levels are working too hard. You become insulin resistant and your body is in a fat storage mode. And so stop that from happening stop the struggle from happening and to burn fat naturally as a woman over 50. What we need to do is to lower our insulin response in the body. And one of the things that you can do that can be helpful with this is to start building muscle. And so we want to do more strength training. We want to build more muscle. And Dory, she's an FDN and she's listening to me right now. And she's smaller than me, but she's got more muscle mass. And so she actually weighs a little bit more than me, but she's more muscular. And you could actually shoot more glucose through those muscles and not have to be super strict. But it just depends too how carb intolerant you are. In the beginning of a lifestyle change, we want to look at health as an adventure and look at health as something that we can do to create a weight loss process for our body to get healthy, to lose the weight. And we want to look at how we can balance our hormones, and it needs to be looked at as, let me get a drink of water. I just had a little bit of sardines and some cold brew coffee, so it gives me a little bit of phlegm. Sorry about that. But we want to see how we can actually program our body with food to balance our hormones naturally so that we don't have those hormone imbalances. So, and then the other side of this, there's different ways to do this. With FDN, we look at diet. I'd use the holistic low carb method because it's the one thing that's going to reset your metabolism quicker than anything else. It's what we need to do so that we could get nutrients back into our cellular system, and we can switch the fats and do an oil change in our body so our cellular system works better. But it's also the rest and the sleep. Are you prioritizing your sleep to reduce your cortisol levels, to reduce your stress? And did you know that if you stay up too late, you're raising your cortisol levels, which puts you in a fat storage mode, not a fat loss mode? If you go to bed earlier and stop eating earlier, if you do time-restricted eating, you can lower your cortisol response, lower your hormones, balance your hormones in that regard. And so those are some things to do too. It's like, light. I was just listening to this endocrine doctor, endocrinologist, talking on a show that focuses on light, which is a really cool podcast. And hearing it from a doctor's perspective, and I've heard it before, but you have to understand that we are in front of blue light. We are under blue light in the house. I tried to do this outside, but the wind was blowing. We are in junk light all the time. Junk light will disturb and imbalance your hormones because that raises insulin. So if you've got blue light in your eyes all day long, you are stuck at noon. Your body's insulin levels are elevated. Your cortisol levels are elevated. If you've got blue light in your eyes till midnight, then you're having a hormone imbalance and circadian dysfunction. And that's another thing that raises our hormones and insulin levels and causes us to gain weight. So that puts you in a fat storage mode. A lot of people could be a low carb diet and say it doesn't work. Well, what does your sleep look like? How are you balancing your hormones? And then again, it's exercise and movement. Exercise doesn't have to be extreme. You don't always want it to be extreme. If your cortisol levels are low, that's why we test, don't guess. But one of the things you want to do is get movement. Like I did 20 jumping jacks. I've done 20 squats. I've done my rotation of arm weights so that I can build strength in my body. And then I went for one walk already. I'm going to go for another walk after this call and before my next client if I get a chance. So those are what I want. That's what I do for movement. And so we always need to look at stress reduction, because if you don't get stress reduction under control, then you're going to have hormonal imbalances because you're going to have circadian dysfunction. And if you're having high levels of stress, insulin levels are up, cortisol levels are up, causing those imbalances. When you have those imbalances, then you're going to have those cravings. It's going to be harder to focus on making lifestyle change. You're going to feel more anxious. It's not that we need antidepressants. If we have anxiety, what are we eating that's causing this anxiety? Did you know that I had wheat and dairy sensitivities my whole life, and I had depression because of those sensitivities? causing depression and anxiety in my body. And this does this to everybody to some degree. We just don't know exactly to what degree we're going to have a reaction to. And I was just going over MRT, food sensitivity results and recommendation with one of my clients, and it can be frustrating because you're sensitive to the foods you're eating because you've got so much leaky gut and immune reaction going on that we have to stop the foods that are causing this immune reaction so that we can reset your gut health and reset the immune system to turn off the inflammation so that you could start healing and losing the weight that you need to lose. And so those are some things to do. And so understanding that makes it easier to go 30 days without those foods that we're sensitive to so we can reset our inflammation in the body, jumpstart weight loss. And you just need to understand it. And my lived experience is really good about explaining all of this. And if you have any pain, inflammation, stiffness in your body, what are you eating that could be causing this inflammation? What are you doing in your body that could be causing it? And if it's an injury, that could be different. But if it's a food sensitivity, there shouldn't be any pain. Sciatica is not normal. Low back pain is not normal. Those things are inflammation. And so we want to troubleshoot it all. Having pain on the bottom of our feet when we wake up in the morning is inflammation. Having to get up once or twice in the middle of the night to go and pee isn't normal. It's inflammation. And so the more frequently you urinate, there could be inflammation in your body. Now, if you just drink like 2 cups of water just before bed, lay down a little bit, get back up, go use the bathroom, then come back to bed. And you need to at least try not to drink just before bed a lot. But that would be a varying factor if you're drinking so much just before bed. But for the most part, I don't hardly ever need to get up in the middle of the night to go pee. The only time I do is if I feel restless, my heart rate is elevated. Sometimes I just get up, go pee just to reset my body, maybe take some magnesium and then go back to bed. And then I can lower my heart rate and get back to sleep. It's kind of resetting myself. So that struggle to burn fat, that number one problem for women over 50, that's hormone imbalances. It comes down to food as information to your body, reversing and reducing the insulin resistance. That's why I always work with a low carb diet with my clients. And you have to be in action and ready to do this because this is the process I use. This is what will reset your metabolism. You're going to get a metabolic analysis. We're going to find out what's going on in your body so I can address everything within the hidden healing opportunities within the hormone, immune, detoxification, digestion, energy, and nervous system so that I can find your hidden weight loss blocks and put you back together again like Humpty Dumpty. We're going to just fill in all those cracks and get you to work better so that you have energy, so you don't have those ravenous cravings, so you can, eat the foods that make you feel good without eating foods that you feel like you made you feel good in the moment that you're craving but aren't really good for you. So it's about balancing your insulin levels by reducing the insulin load on your body, by lowering your insulin, the hormone insulin, which is a fat storage hormone, and lowering those cortisol levels and keeping them balanced with stress balance, circadian balance, getting outside and grounding and getting sunlight. I've already been in my bikini today. I had a call at 2 o'clock and I was sitting on the front porch with my legs in the sun. I've got my little shorts on and I'm going to collect as much sun as I can right now to help me balance stress levels, keep my insulin levels balanced, and help my body balance cortisol levels so that I can have enough cortisol to manage my daily life. Whereas we don't want it completely gone. We don't want insulin completely gone. We need them to be balanced so that we can utilize them. We need insulin to actually build muscle. We need a little bit, but we then want it to go away. It's kind of like having a security agent at the door, right? If you've got a security agent at the fat cell blocking all that fat from coming out, we want that security agent to go away so that we can burn the body fat. And so you want to look at it as being locked up and guarded, and let's get the guard to go away and stop that process. And that's kind of how it works. Actually, I think it's a fairly simple process to look at when you look at hormone imbalance as something that is being imbalanced because of the food we're eating. And then if we could just flip the sugar switch off, we also flip off that disease risk switch because it's the same switch. And when we lower the insulin response in our body, we're balancing our hormones. Because I had PCOS in my mid-30s and 225 pounds. I could not ditch that weight for my life. like I said, I just squashed it and it would bounce right back as soon as I stopped doing what I was doing. So if I wasn't dieting, I was gaining weight. So I used dieting to stop gaining weight, but then I was always miserable, anxious, depressed, and frustrated and worried because because I knew I was just going to gain the weight back. But you know what feels really good when you get this all under control and you start using food as information to your body and you flip that sugar switch off? You can lose the weight for good. I've lost 100 pounds. This weight's never coming back on my body. I'm maintaining at 129 right now, and going to see how much muscle I could build and how much more I could fine-tune my body and shrink my skin with intermittent fasting. But this is all a choice that we get to do when we make that vision, we make that goal, and we can turn off the noise in our head and be able to focus on having permanent weight loss because we know exactly what to do. I can wake up now and still get on the scale just to see what's going on, and I'm like, I don't have to gain any weight back. I never gain any weight other than 2 pounds here or there. And it depends on if I eat a food I'm sensitive to, or if I eat too many carbs that day, but I know I could get it right back down again if I want to. But I always have food rules. And the reason I have food rules is because I was addicted to sugar, and I have foods that trigger me to eat more. And so if I get too much of a sweet taste on my food, from food, it doesn't matter if that's a low calorie food or if it is a low carbohydrate food in the way, because if it's fruit and I'm tasting and eating fruit, I'm raising my insulin levels. And for me, that is too much of a sugar load on my body, and I will gain weight from it. And then it turns my sugar switch back on and I want to eat more the next day. I don't like feeling out of control that way. So if I'm going to have fruit, it's going to be minimal. I don't have the same reaction with berries as I do with blueberries, and blueberries is a food sensitivity for me. So I could eat a whole pint of blackberries, but I can't do that with blueberries without having a reaction. So we always want to find the foods that we work for us to keep our hormones under control and to keep our cortisol levels under control, where we can balance our hormones. And then as women over 50, we want to really look at bringing back in hormone balance in a natural bioidentical way. I mean, there is no reason why we need to suffer and struggle if we can balance our estrogen levels and our progesterone levels and bring in nutritional supplementation or bioidentical creams to help us balance all of that. But you want to find out first what your food sensitivities are, where your inflammation is, support your gut and health with that. Find out what your hormones are doing, because you could have fairly good looking hormones and even your adrenals might look good, but are you methylating? Are you detoxifying? I've taken a look at the test, and those are stagnant. If you have stagnant detoxification and you're taking extra estrogen hormones, you're going to have trouble getting rid of them, and they're going to build up in the body and cause you to have more of a disease risk. And so we don't want that DNA damage. We want to take a look. Let me get another drink of water. I always try to eat before these calls because I don't want to eat afterwards, and then it causes me a little bit of phlegm. But, okay, so when we actually focus, and I forgot exactly what I was talking about, caught off a little flow on that, we want to bring in detoxification before we add in extra hormone balance. We need to know what's going on in our body, and we need to get our body to be insulin sensitive, and we want our body to be learn to be a fat burner and to be metabolically flexible. When you're metabolically flexible, when you get into maintenance, you could actually go in and out of eating sugar, carbs, and fat and back and forth, and your body will know what to do, and you'll be practiced enough to be able to eat a little bit of something and then go back to eating the way you were eating so that you don't gain the weight back. Because, I mean, I used to do the HCG diet. It was awesome. You lost a lot of weight. It was amazing to reset the metabolism. And some people, it reset it very well, and other people, as soon as you stop doing it and you added the sugar back in and you added that wheat back in, well, all that does is flip that sugar switch back on and you gain all the weight back. And so you want to look at this as you need to be able to understand that we are, to balance our hormones, we have to balance insulin, we have to balance cortisol, That's why I am so big in nature and getting sunlight, is because I've noticed my body circadian balance is super critical for me to keep my weight off, because when I'm grounding, when I'm getting sunlight, when I'm out in nature, I'm in a parasympathetic state, and I'm able to keep my cortisol levels balanced and keep my insulin levels lower because my stress hormones are lower. And that's a huge weight loss block for women, and they're not always aware of it. So there's varying things that we can do, but we do need to manage circadian balance and stress on a regular basis, and we need to bring in the sleep, because if we don't do these things, it doesn't matter what you eat. If you're eating a low carb diet, you're just going to feel frustrated because you didn't get the results you needed. That's why when you work with me, and I'm bringing my holistic low carb method, I work on all of this to actually help you implement a lifestyle of a health adventure that's going to work for you. This is health as your wealth. This is you reclaiming the second half of your life so that you can get your life back on track, reduce your disease risk, and actually create 10 to 20 more years of quality life. Walking and dancing into your 90s, ladies. Did you know that you can do that? You know, so many people are not making it past 60. A couple of my friends didn't even make it to 60. It's so tragic. We don't know why our DNA can get imbalanced so early in life. But what if we could take back control of our body, run these diagnostic labs? I give you 5 diagnostic labs to run. And we find so many hidden healing opportunities within the hormones, within your cortisol and adrenal and all of those areas, as well as your gut digestion, your inflammation markers, your fat digestion, your protein digestion, your liver health. We find so many hidden healing opportunities that it's easy to put together a targeted supplement protocol and lifestyle for you with the right food for your body, depending on your metabolic analysis, your food sensitivity test, and what we find is going on in your body, so that we could collapse the time, get you healthy this year. So you do a staycation health adventure this year, drop that 20 pounds or more, depending on how strict you want to be and how fast you want to work with it. I'll work as fast as you want to work with this, but I can only go so fast as you allow me to if you are putting on the brakes. So if you don't have any brakes on and you want to go fast, I've had people lost 30 pounds. I've had someone lost 50 pounds. I've been resetting my metabolism on a regular basis over the years, but now that I know more of what's going on and how to do this quicker, it's easier. And so those are some of the things that I'm able to guide you as a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner with lived experience of obesity and weighing 225 pounds. I know exactly what you can do to get this to go. And it's going to, if we need to course correct, we course correct, but there's always things that we can do. I was just talking with someone who said she was just a little too tired right after eating lunch, and I just was going over her supplements, and I'm like, okay, your insulin levels are already too low. You don't need PGX and mulberry right now. That could be making you tired. Let's take that out and let's do it later in the evening. And so there's always going to be things that we can course correct and double check and see what you're doing. And then we can, change things up. And I don't do things the same all the time. Some days I'll eat breakfast early. Sometimes I'll eat them later. It's going to be depending on my schedule. And so where I started is not where I'm at now. And so where you are is not where I am now. And so this is why it's a customized, personalized, holistic low carb method, because I need to see the labs and your metabolic analysis to think what's going on in your body. So it is essential that we run the labs. And yes, they are an investment. You pay for 3, I'm going to throw in 2 bonus labs, and it is going to give us the information we need to put you back together again and get your body back into homeostasis as best as we can get it. And so this is, your body wants to heal. We just need to take away the interferences. And I understand what you're going through. I understand your struggle as a woman over 50. I did most of my weight loss has come off and stayed off as a woman over 50, and I'm building muscle. I haven't lost any hair. I'm not totally gray yet, but it's making some great highlights here, right? And so we don't have to age unhealthy. We don't have to age feeling decrepit and not having movement and not having activity and not being able to hang out with our grandchildren and do what we want to do and go on vacation. You can excuse me, have the best vacation a year after you get your health adventure spacation here at home. That's what my clients are telling me. They come to me because they just need some more information. They know they're getting close. They know they need to find the direction that they need to go. And a lot of the times they're on a cliff. And so you can look at this as like you're on the precipice, and we don't want you to fall off and hurt yourself. And so if we find the information we need, we could turn you in the right direction, get you that roadmap, guide you back to where you need to go back into living, get off of the cliff edge and go back and live life in a healthier state, so that you have vitality and you can feel radiant in your body again and have that energy that you need. This is when you get your hormones balanced. And is it going to be perfect? It's always going to be something that's a health hobby, because why let yourself get sick? You have to look at this as health as your wealth and health as a hobby. That's why I call my program a health adventure experience, because this is something that I'm going to teach you and educate you and hold you powerfully with my certainty and conviction, and give you radical accountability so that you can learn to create the lifestyle that you want to live, that's a holistic lifestyle based around low carb living and lifestyle, so that you can find your balance. And where your balance isn't going to be where my balance is. The more muscle you have, the more carbohydrates you can bring in. But at the same time, managing your gut health and your hormone health based on what we're eating, and using food to program our body to work the way we need to. So we want fat soluble vitamins. Did you know sunlight is a nutrient? That's my baby girl. She just came in and told me she's hungry. Can you hear my baby? Hi, baby. She's hungry. She says, where's my kibble? So we want to look at life as an adventure. I'm aging adventurously. I just finished up with a client who gave me an awesome review. She says, thank you for helping me age adventurously, because she couldn't do last year what she did this year, which was to save her company, save a $1 million project, because she could turn her brain back on, work through lunch, not have to worry about food, no insulin resistance, able to power through, able to focus, able to do the job she needed to do to be badass. And she did that as a corporate woman, and she is amazing. And you know what? She's not completely there yet. She still has a lot of changes to do, a lot of things to do, but what she did with me and for me holding her accountable made the huge difference in her freedom for her job and her retirement in the future. And that was immense for her. And like I said, I lost my 30s and 40s to having this hormone imbalance, and I struggled, always struggled. All I wanted to do was sleep. I was so exhausted all the time. Coughing, sneezing, asthma, allergies, and depressed, and then anxiety. And I didn't understand that I needed to take out the foods that were causing this. I just thought I needed to diet. But diets never worked. Diets would work in the moment, and then the fat would come back. And it was always the fat, not the muscle. So when you do low calorie dieting, you're also losing your fat mass and your bone mass. And so then you only regain the fat, and then you have to start over. So it gets so much harder in our 50s to build muscles. But there's some tricks to that too, which I'm doing. And I always teach my clients how to do that right. So that's why my holistic low carb method is about getting the right amount of protein, getting the right amount of food and the right type of food to build muscle, not to lose muscle while because this is not a diet, it's a lifestyle change where you actually get to recreate the health that you want, recreate the body you want to live with. Oh my God, I recreated this body that I'm living in, and I feel amazing. No pain, nothing broken, no medication, 61, thriving, feeling radiant, and living life as an adventure and feeling beautiful. And I know everybody can do that, because I'm not special. I did it. I just started a long time ago. I started my weight loss journey in my mid-30s when I came in from outside with my 8-year-old son. And my then husband said, when are you going to lose the weight? And he didn't even look at me. Well, I started right then and there. I'm like, I guess right now. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's get on the exercise bike. Let's start researching this. Susan Powder, she was there. I did the fat-free diet. I thought that was the way to do it. Thankfully, I didn't do that for very long because I have an ice cream addiction. So I probably didn't overdo that. But one of the things I got stuck on was eating jelly beans and just eating all the time, which is bad for our body. So I did have to learn not to nibble all the time. And sometimes I'll still do that with nuts, but I try to eat them more with a meal or as a meal rather than eating all the time. So a jelly bean diet is not a good diet. That will turn on your insulin switch, that will flip that switch on, and you will be in a fat storage mode. So, sorry. Okay. And all of that hormone imbalance leads to metabolic chaos. That's what Reed Davis always says, metabolic chaos. That's why it's metabolic dysfunction. They're calling it metabolic disease. If you don't understand the process, that's why I like to keep it simple. I just call it insulin resistance. Let's reset your metabolism. Let's flip off that sugar switch. But it is a metabolic disease dysfunction process in your body. And it starts with the insulin resistance, the leptin resistance, the hormone imbalances, the PCOS, the estrogen dominant, detoxification issues, your digestion breaks down. All of this is happening in our body as we are. And that's why people say like they fall apart in their 40s and 50s. Well, it's been happening all along. Our body just can't keep up anymore. And then as we start to lower or lose our hormone and our progesterone even more, that's when all the stress comes out more so, because we no longer have that little bit of balance. We are feeling totally dysfunctional at that point. And so that's when a lower insulin diet is really powerful, because you can get a better balance. You can balance those insulin levels and have less depression and less stress. And that's where circadian rhythm and circadian balance and light comes in, because light is a nutrient to our body. Earlier, I was getting a lot of sunlight, and I forgot that I feel less hungry when I get more sunlight, because sunlight is a nutrient. It will nourish your body, and you will actually burn body fat. And so if you're getting a lot of sun on your body, when you're outside, you don't need to eat as much, because you're actually releasing fat from your fat cells, and you're burning that as fuel. And so then I'll start to feel a little nauseous, and I feel less hungry because I ate something, and then all of a sudden I'm too full. And so I can actually, when I went to the Grand Canyon and I was hiking the Grand Canyon, I couldn't eat very much. I can't eat much protein. And as you're a fat burner, your body learns to be a fat burner, and it will tap into that body fat. And so if you're getting sunlight on your skin, it's a nutrient, ladies. That's a really good way to burn fat. And so we don't want to hide from it. And I think next week I'm going to come in, maybe on Monday, come in with my next live, where I'm going to talk more about light and how it is a nutrient and circadian balance more so, and how you can actually build your solar callus, and how this is protective of cancer in your body, and what, the what's and ifs of all of that. So that's a subject I'm totally fascinated with, that I'm always supporting my clients with, because it was 20 pounds of weight loss for me to get all of this balanced and managed. And the more I balance my hormone on a regular basis and get my hormones to balance with estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, I'm going to be able to tap into more body fat burning. And so that's kind of the next step I'm in. So in the meanwhile, I'm doing more resistance training with my weight. I'm not doing it at a gym. I'm just doing it around the house with my body weight and with the weight. And so I do need to focus on that. And so this is basically what we want to focus on. This is how we're going to stop that struggle to burn the fat as a woman over 50. We're going to manage our hormone and stop the imbalances, and it starts with food. We use food to program our body. One man's poison could be another man's, can help, food can be a poison, or it can be medicine. And so one man's medicine could be another man's poison, I guess is what I was trying to say. So we got to flip the sugar switch off, turn the switch for fat burning on, and actually get our body to balance naturally with the diet, rest, exercise, stress and toxin reduction, and targeted supplementation. There's no reason why we have to ignore supplements when we can use them in a targeted way to support our body. Let me tell you the supplements that I take on a regular basis currently right now, based on my lab results. And then also my goals and my vision for my body. So I'm using collagen and creatine, and I'll add that to my coffee normally. And sometimes I'll just add it to a fiber pudding. And I'm also doing aluminum detox, so I'm adding more fiber into my diet right now. So I have a fiber mix, and I'm using hemp seed, chia seed. I'm currently out of flax, but I'm going to be adding that in. So that, and a probiotic yogurt that I make with rooterai, so that I could help have better gut health while I'm having this aluminum detoxification, because otherwise I end up with more diarrhea, and I don't want the diarrhea. And so what I'm also doing there is taking supporting my hormones nutritionally with DHEA, also with maca, and then I'm also using Vitanica's support for women for testosterone. I'm not taking any hormones for testosterone, but that's something I'd like to do. But then I also add in estrogen by estradiol with quicksilver, and then I take that 1 or 3 times, at least 3 times a day if I can remember. And then I only do progesterone at night because progesterone makes me sleepy, so I can only do that one at night. And then extra DHEA vaginally because we don't want atrophy, and when we need to have support there, and when we get the right hormone balance, we get better support there as well. So those are some of the things that I'm doing. Magnesium, more Maggie, that's what Morley, I forgot his first name, with the copper cure, always talks about how we need more Maggie in the body. And almost all across the board, I have seen that on the HTMA test. It's not enough magnesium, not enough potassium, not enough sodium. So I add all of that back in. And I'm also using K2 to help myself absorb my calcium because I have a calcium shell. My calcium is not absorbing in my body. So I am using K2 and boron to help myself absorb that calcium. But I don't add in D3 because I don't want to absorb too much calcium when I already have too much calcium not absorbing in my body. And so it's not about throwing calcium at the body, but are you absorbing your calcium, and do you even know if you're absorbing your calcium? So that's one of the labs that I use to find out for that. And then almost across the board, everybody is deficient in chromium and selenium, and you need to know that because selenium is a heart mineral, and we need to have that for your thyroid. So is your thyroid being balanced? And once you get your metabolism balanced, one of the things I support you with is education around thyroid health and your metabolism overall to get your thyroid to be in a better balance. So I recently had my own test on it's the complete metabolic panel, where I had all my blood work done and my thyroid blood done. Thyroid's completely fine. I don't know if it was dysfunctional in the past. It's currently fine now. Everything looks good. Good HDL to triglyceride ratio. All of my C-reactive proteins or inflammatory markers were all low. So there isn't any problem at all with my LDL being oxidized or inflamed because I eat a very low anti-inflammatory diet and I don't eat things that are going to oxidize my body. And so we always want to look at that. And that's one of the things I want to talk about on Monday too with my next live is about why our skin gets oxidized and damaged and why we burn. I mean, if you could see me, I've got my tan going here, right? And it doesn't take me long because I have my diet dialed in. I'm building my solar callus. I'm getting my sunlight, and I have the right amount of iodine in my body so that I could actually tan fast and quickly, and I'm protected. And I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to talk more about that on Monday. So, hormone balance, it's not as hard as you think it is. It just sounds hard. And so it can be a simple process, and you just want to know that if you're struggling to lose weight, it is because it's a hormonal imbalance, and we need to get insulin under control and balance your stress hormones and that cortisol. And we can do that with food. Who'd have thought, right? And so it's 80% diet, and 80% of your immune system is in the gut. And so we're always going to look at what's going on and look under the hood and find out with my lab work that I'm going to give you what's going on in your body so we can correct it and get you healthy to lose the weight quickly. And so that you can get back to living the life that you want to live, reclaim the second half of your life, and get your weight down for permanent, for good. You can get your weight down for good and never gain it back. How does that sound? And if you would like help implementing that process, I have multiple programs. Let's get on a health adventure strategy call, find out which program is going to work for you. And I'm going to tell you more about my process and my program and how it's going to support you and how much weight I think you could lose depending on what's going on in your body. And so everybody's going to be at a different place. So flip that sugar switch off. Make a vision, build your goal. What's important to you, got to remember too, is you can take that word impossible, take off the I am and make it possible. It's all possible. If I did it, you can do this too. And the other thing I heard recently, which I thought was very empowering, is, let me see if I could come up with it. The term that I want to say is doubt kills more dreams than failure. Don't doubt. Get excited. Let's make a plan. Let's get you in action. There is no failure if you're in action. I started years ago, but I never gave up. I had to start as a child because I was overweight as a child, and I never gave up. I could see myself in a pair of skinny jeans and a white shirt, and I just wanted to look beautiful the way I was. Just plain, but looking good and slender. And I finally reached that. It took me my whole life. I don't want anybody to have to waste that much time in their life to get the results they need. Just know that you have a choice as a woman over 50. Come hang out with me at my Facebook group at Holistic Low carb weight loss for women over 50. Come and get your invite and hang out there, and I'm going to try to support you as best I can. The more you participate, the more I'm going to give you support. And so keep that in mind and come and get your invite there. Hang out with me on YouTube at Lori Ballou Weight Loss, at Holistic Low Carb Weight Loss for Women Over 50. You can see the pattern here. This is me. This is my mission and my purpose. And I'm living this, my passion. I'm living my purpose and my passion. This is the lifestyle I live. This is what I'm going to empower you and educate you on, creating your own specific lifestyle for what you need. So this, ladies, is total transformation. It is total transformation. You don't ever have to feel sick in your body. You can get the energy you want to live the life that you want to have. You get to recreate your health and your body to live the way you want to live. It's a choice. Yes, it can seem hard, but together we will build the courage that you need. And with my certainty and conviction, I will get you there and take you there. So wave that magic wand. If you want this, I will guide you. I will be your travel adventure practitioner and road guide to get you where you need to go. Let's get you off that cliff edge and get you back to living again. All right. See you next week.